What is up, Sales Dev Squad? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. We got a awesome guest for you today. We have Rich Cardona, who is a LinkedIn video strategist for executives, also owns his own media company called Rich Cardona Media. Not only has Rich served in the United States Marine Corps for over 17 years, but has dabbled into a lot of different careers, and now sort of his passion is around helping others with their content strategy, specifically with videos. So super excited to ask him a couple questions on how he got into this field, what has been successful for him, and hopefully he can inspire anyone out there looking to become a video creator as well. But Rich, thank you so much for hopping on here. How has everything been? I know it's around like Thanksgiving time here in 2020, one hell of a year, but how's everything been on your end?
Dude, first, thanks for having me on, and hello to the squad out there. I hope everyone's doing well. Definitely, please follow up with Mateo if you have any questions that I don't answer. I'd love to make sure I get to them. Dude, everything's really, really good. I'm super blessed, and I think it was not long ago where I stopped feeling like guilty for having a freaking monster year. I'm just like, dude, like, this is just how it is. I'm not going to feel bad about it. Things are going really well. And I know at the same time, things could go the other way at any time for people in the entrepreneurial space. So I'm enjoying it right now. And I'm just going to keep busting, to just get some more content out there, get some more clients, keep the pipeline full, and make people happy.
That's awesome. And you're based out of, I believe, the Texas area right now.
I used to be out of there. I'm now in Wilmington, North Carolina. But I mean, I got a lot of things going on with some people, and partnered on another company recently, and they're out of Austin. So I might go back in a year. We'll see. But right now, I'm enjoying it here in North Carolina, man.
Nice, nice. Happy to hear it. Rich, you have a really interesting background. You obviously were in the Marines for a good chunk of your life and career. Do you mind just giving us like a brief rundown of like how you kind of fell into that? And I'd love to hear, what sort of how that journey was for you.
Yeah, so it's funny. I retired early out of the Marine Corps because we had too many Marines. It was great. So they're like, hey, early retirement. If you're between 15 and 20 years, you could retire at any of those years, where normally it was 20 or nothing. And I always used to say, like, you're pregnant or you're not. There's nothing in between, like 20 plus, and that's it. So I got out at 17. I retired. I was 34, man. So I spent literally half of my life in the service. So that was really cool for me. But I always say, when I look back at that, number one, I'm incredibly grateful that I got to serve. I met some of the most ridiculously talented people ever. But when I was in high school, man, I was straight punk. I was drinking, smoking weed, like all that stuff. And there was just no way college and I were going to mix. And there was no way that my parents would send me. I don't even think they could afford it anyway. So I kind of look at that as my first self-aware moment. Like, what are my options here? And I ran into a Marine recruiter, and dude, the way Marines wear uniforms is everything. So he just stood out completely. And we had some conversations. I thought I was going to be doing some crazy, wild stuff. I did end up doing some crazy, wild stuff. But in the beginning, it was just kind of like, what the hell am I doing? I wanted out as soon as I got in. And then as time went on, well, actually not long into it, 3 years into it, 9/11 happened. I was in Japan at the time. And dude, from there, it was just kind of a no-brainer. We all watched that happen on some so I don't know if I could swear or not,
No,
on like a terrible TV, and we're all in my friend's barracks room in Okinawa, and we just watched it unfold, and we're like, all right, well, this is why we exist. So after that, it became easy to stay in, and then I made a career out of it. But it's given me everything. It's given me just everything about who I am is probably related to my time in service.
well, we thank you for your service, Rich. I know that like Amazon, you obviously worked at Amazon for a little while. They have like a pretty big like veterans program, to my understanding. How was your experience just transitioning out of your time in the Marines back to like civilian life? I know that you kind of mentioned in a lot of your content just like that transition is really difficult for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
veterans.
So let me put it to this way. When I got out, dude, I really really thought I had set myself up for success. I was networking my face off. I got out early so I could be marketable. I was a year into my MBA at USC at the time, because I was like, well, if I'm going to go to college or go get my MBA, I better go somewhere,
Reputable.
ridiculous. So did that. And, I was on LinkedIn a little bit, and it didn't matter. I was not fully ready for what it was going to be like. I was not ready for all the no's. All the no's I would be receiving on job applications, for interviews, for coffee, for anything. And a lot of it was probably because there's a lack of clarity. I mean, when you're in your lane for that long, like, it's disorienting when you come out, and that's normal for any transition, not just a military transition. So it proved to be very difficult. After I got the MBA, that landed me at Amazon. And although, yeah, I mean, they do have a good veteran program and all these different aspects to that monster company, my experience there was awful. I mean, dude, it was just like, I'd rather be on deployment than this, because I was in a warehouse, 14 to 16 hours a day. I mean, I was surrounded by a lot of other leaders that were younger than me. And that's not about me not being able to be humble about that, but I just knew that they had drank the Kool-Aid, that they were really had the tunnel vision on the Amazon way, which is fine. But for me, man, like, I had no creative outlet. I kind of stood out in some ways, the way I like to manage and the way I like to lead. And I had really massively great performing teams. And everyone's always like, dude, what do you do? What do you do? I'm like, I just talk to the people. They're hourly associates, man. Like, they're not super qualified to do anything, except monotonous work. So it's like, how can you make it a different experience for them, to where they show up and are just not like, here we go again? Because that's what it was like for me. So I use that as an advantage, and really kind of just created a culture that, in my opinion, was like, no one could mess with my culture, man. Like, not though in that building, no way. So I kind of made the best out of it, but at some point, man, like, I had to go through another transition, and I was getting out of that place. And my wife, who's also a veteran, gave me permission to get out, and that's it, man. I was drinking, I was leaving work early. I just didn't care. I was literally, to any listeners out there, you really know when you're miserable when you start cutting corners and are willing to take risks that could literally end up with you being fired. And that's exactly where I was, man.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I really appreciate it. It's crazy because if you think about like the people out there, like an entrepreneur is really a specific type of breed, because you have entrepreneurs and then you have people who are okay doing a job, which there's nothing wrong with doing a job, but it's almost like an entrepreneur is a different breed, and you really have to be like motivated by something greater to really push you to do all that hard stuff. So how did you realize that you weren't going to work for someone, that you wanted to do your own thing? And like, that must have been really hard for you, because like a job is like the easiest thing to like lean back on
Oh
financially.
yeah.
So how did you realize that you wanted to do your own thing?
I, I, I this is the way you put that. I've not been asked that way before, and I'm really, really glad you did. Here's the deal. When I say my wife gave me permission to quit, like, she's like, I'll carry us. And let me tell you, man, like, we both obviously know Gary Vee, and really appreciate him, and he's been instrumental in my life. But I did something that he literally preaches, and I was not following his advice. I was literally acting out of like the sheer nature of it. And that is, quit the job, rented our house, moved in with my in-laws in their freaking basement, my wife, my daughter, myself, and my dog, and complete 180 from everything I was experiencing. No stable paycheck, no long hours, no, financial security. And when I say she gave me permission, all I said to myself was, I'm just going to explore my curiosities. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to waste this time. So I thought about what I loved, what interested me. I thought it was photography. It turned out to be videography. And then to another level turned out to be, making. I had been friends and mentored by Claude Silver, who's the chief heart officer over at Media. and she was talking to me while I was down at Amazon, and we met through LinkedIn. And dude, she talked me off the ledge so many times, and then I can't even explain how soft the advice was in a good way. And that was literally the first time I realized what I was going to do, because I wanted to pay her back so badly for helping me like make it through these situations. And I'm like, I'm going to offer to vlog for her, even though she works at freaking Media and surrounded by creatives. I have no idea how to do any of this stuff, but I'm going to just offer. And when I did, before I could finish, she's just like, yeah, I trust you. And I'm like, okay. Started making content for her. And the next thing I know, people are taking interest, and people see me with a camera and they're like, oh, well, I want that. Next thing I know, man, I started kind of getting like, a little bit of the feeling of a business coming on. And then once I realized this could be it, I was like, number one, I love storytelling. Number two, I love talking to people. Number three, it's high touch. I could see the end user, right? Versus Amazon, like I'm helping ship a product to someone I'll never meet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all that together, I was just like, okay, like I could do this. And then, dude, as time went on, it just got absolutely nuts. And that those things, that those kind of fundamental pieces where it was serving me financially, where it was serving me kind of just like charismatically, and it was serving me mentally, dude, it's just like, of course I get up out of bed every day at 4 and I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm just like ready. So, I don't think you have to be built a certain way. I agree with you. Like, you do have to have like thick skin and all these other things, but the most important thing you need to know is what the hell you want to do. And that is the hardest thing for people to do, especially when they're in a stable job and they might be unhappy. Like, they look around like, what do you mean? What do I want to do? Like, that's not an option. That means I have to do this, this, and this. I'm like, dude, yeah. I'm now 40 years old, just a couple months ago. And I'm like, it can be done. It can be done.
Dude, you got me pumped here, man. Thanks for that. How did you find out that like video is what you want to do? I watched one of your YouTube videos, how to use InShot, and you like showed us how easy it is to make a video in today's age when everyone has smartphones and it's really democratized with all these apps and like, what drew you to like, go from being in the Marines to like being a video creative? Like, how did you unleash that side of you?
Dude, like, even looking at this camera right now, like, it's noisy because it's dark. Let me just turn this up, and it's pissing me off actually. But I'm going to tell you, everyone right now, I am not the best videographer. I'm not the best video editor or anything like that. What it is I absolutely am passionate about helping people tell their stories. Now, how can they tell their stories in a manner which actually creates buzz or interest in them, which in turn essentially becomes a pipeline for the business? No one cares about the business, man. Like, no one cares about your business, my business. No one cares about that, man. Like, they care about the people in the business. So I figured that out pretty quickly because I just looked at what I was interested in, dude. Like, I've never said, like, dude, if an Amazon facility happened to just shut down for some reason, or it was flooded, or I don't know what, you wouldn't be like, ooh, I hope Amazon's okay. Like, you think, if you know some of the people there, you're like, oh, I hope so-and-so still has a job. I wonder where they're going to get relocated to. You think about the people. So the video part was just a means to capture it. Now, let me ask you this. Are you on TikTok?
I am, yes.
All right, man. So like, TikTok is literally the game-changing app. Like, it's insanely addictive. I love it.
It's great.
I was creating content at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, I've posted this many times and I got 1 million views. This is crazy. And then I stopped because it's too addicting. But video, right? It's video. Instagram, videos win. LinkedIn, videos win. Facebook, videos win. YouTube. Dude, people make money off YouTube every day for videos that they put out 5 years ago. So to me, it became absolutely clear that video was going to be the way to get attention more than anything else. I do believe everyone's missed the boat if you're trying to start now for Instagram and Facebook. TikTok is still quote unquote wide open, and my business runs off LinkedIn, making content for people and executives on LinkedIn and distributing it and all that other good stuff because the reach is fantastic. And come on, man, like, depending on your target audience, your audience who has money is probably on LinkedIn, not on Instagram. So that's how I look at it. And it just kind of made sense. And look, like you could tell by how I talk, man, I'm not some sort of like genius, nothing like that. Like I am a simpleton who just kind of just looked around and was like, this is working. This doesn't work. And it's all trial and error. It's all a natural process of elimination. And just the other thing is your ability to grind and just like, again, have the energy to get up every day and do it over and over and over and over. And that's where it's at.
I know you and I are both a big Gary Vee fan, and he's always
Yeah.
preaching how LinkedIn is like super underrated. What do you feel for anyone listening out there who's not on LinkedIn, who doesn't even have an account on LinkedIn, but somehow stumbled across this video? What value does LinkedIn have right now in November of 2020 that you feel like people should really see in terms of just like organic reach?
So the reach is substantial. Number one, I mean, it's nothing close to TikTok, but TikTok is a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of business people doing really well on TikTok, but those people that are your everyday professionals are not going to go over there for any business, right? So where do they go? LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is literally built for that. So their organic reach is massive because all you need to do is make a video of this post and I need to like it. And then people in your network see it. If I make a post about this and tag you, then people in your network see it. And that's the entire premise, man. So everyone always gets it twisted on LinkedIn, like it is super buttoned up, but you have the ability to make content. And I think the content from my clients that absolutely always dominates over everything else is when they're just real, like real, and talking about problems out there and in the business world that really bother them, and they're animated and they're charismatic and they're not just this buttoned up professional. LinkedIn has changed, and what I believe how the reach can affect you is if you are able to effectively and consistently just, dude, educate the audience, man. Like there's probably 4 or 5 times you could think of today and where you needed help with something, and hearing a message from someone or having a lifeline would have helped. That's exactly how I look at it. Like every one of my clients and myself, I'm a little all over the place, but we're very focused on making sure that the content they put out there is answering some sort of question that exists out there in the marketplace. If you do that, you're offering value on the front side. So what do you do with that? You stack up your connections, quantity over quality in the beginning. So you have reach. You figure out what you're going to talk about. What can you talk about with your eyes closed? What are you an expert in? What experiences, personal and professional experiences, can you draw on that someone could learn from? And you make the freaking videos, man. And you make them. And then all of a sudden, LinkedIn will start showing it to more people and to more people. Now, let me just clarify on the connections thing, the quantity. Quality is down the road. Quantity gets you to quality. But LinkedIn will show your stuff, your videos, your posts to a very, dude, like less at this point right now, like reach is kind of down. So probably less than 5% of your connections. So that 5% or that number of people that they show it to in the first push, they need to engage with it. And you don't know who that 5% is going to be. So your content better be good. And if you want it to be seen by more and more people, then those people engage with it. LinkedIn will be like, all right, I'll show it to a couple more people in that you're connected to. Then when it's really good, like this video I have with Jocko Willink the other day, that thing out of nowhere just went ballistic. And how do you know when LinkedIn is like, this is good content? When all of a sudden you start getting comments and likes from people who are second and third level connections. That's how it works, man. Like the reach is crazy. So we make a monthly report for our clients at the end of every month. And I love being like, dude, we posted 12 times for you this month, and there was 403 hours of your videos watched in totality. Like you can't say that anywhere else. You can't, man. Like, I mean, unless you've been on YouTube for a minute, but that is the key. And you to say 400, that means people are watching and people are listening. And for someone obviously is in sales, that's hugely important.
So I'm sure you get this a lot. What do you have to say for people who think they have nothing of value to share, or they think they don't have anything unique to share, or really you and I are just people who have the guts to just post and share?
Mm-hmm.
So how
Yeah.
do we break that mindset of, oh, I don't have anything of value to share, or I'm not a content creator?
Yeah. This is certainly a common question, and my answer is 99.999% of the time the same. But I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction right now. You very more than likely have helped someone in some way this week. I mean, it's only Monday, right? But or last week. I'm sure I did because I got a couple DMs about some couple things about a podcast I made. Where guys like, I almost bought this Elite Academy subscription to this guy and blah, blah, blah. But I listened to your podcast about save your money. You need to be in execution mode instead of just learning all the time. So I help someone, right? You help someone. We've all helped someone. You can't be that naive to think you've helped no one. And you can't think that people like me and people like you have helped everyone. There's hundreds of millions of users on LinkedIn, and there's certainly there is an audience for you out there if you're willing to go on the offense and find it. But if you're going to be on the kind of defensive side of the equation and be like, dude, everyone's talking about whatever, bullshit. I mean, like, dude, I'm so over that. I don't care how many other people are about talking about videography or storytelling or anything like that. You know why? Because there's a very specific amount of that population that wants to hear it from me because of the way I talk or what I do or the content I make. And there's a very specific group of people that want to hear from you or Alex or whoever. And that's just the way it is. So like that, I hate this, what do you call it?
It's like
not the scare
in a way, right?
Exactly. Like, no, man, like, you know, growth mindset, blah, 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 all that stuff. Sure. Just know this. No one's cornered the market on people. Nobody. So you always have a fighting chance as long as you're willing to do it. Like I said, over and over and over.
Plus, I feel like for you can play a lot of strings, right? Like you can play like your military card, you could play your business card, but like that's just you being you and connecting with people based off of like your background and where you've worked and what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly try and leverage all those things. And look, you said we're people that aren't afraid to put ourselves out there. I'd be completely lying and full of it if I sat here and said there aren't times where I'm like, the hell am I going to talk about this week? You know, and then I just look at my phone. I'm like, oh, all right. Every time I have an idea when I'm not around the camera or a computer, I put it in my phone. And next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I can never make the excuse that I don't have something to talk about.
Rich, I got to ask you, man. Saw your episode with Gary Vee before I even hopped on here because I knew that you talked to Gary Vee in the past, but I was like, okay, I'm having Rich on the podcast. I need to watch this clip in its entirety. First off, how the hell did you even like, you went to New York City and you were in his office, right?
Yeah, man, twice.
How was that, dude? Like, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. Like the fact that you were like you met him in person and like he was on your podcast and you were on his, like how, talk to us. Like how the hell did you make that happen?
So,
and congrats, by the way, that's huge.
Thank you. Check this out. So of course I was friends with Claude, but like there was no way she was gonna hold on a second. There's no way she was gonna like hook that up, right? Like that's just not how it works. And I wouldn't have asked her anyway. I did say to her though, I'm like, do you know if he's going to this one conference? Because he's supposed to go to this conference, but it was up in the air. This is some real estate conference in LA. And she's like, I think so. I'm like, all right. So I go to this real estate conference in LA, and where was I at the time? I was living in Austin because I was at Amazon. I flew out because I had just learned about him. I'm like, I got to see if this is the real deal, right? I had to see for myself. So I put on this stupid suit. Everyone at this video, I mean, dude, all these real estate agents think they are just like it. And I'm just like, this is crazy. And I had asked the organizer if I could bring a camera. He said no. Everyone there had a camera. Everyone there had a D-Rock, man. It was crazy. So I'm like, okay. But I paid the extra money and I had a VIP seat so I could be close to the stage, and it was all seated. So I was in my VIP table. There's a couple rows of those. And I sat right next to the microphone. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like my name thing was there. I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, okay, because I know Gary Vee. I know he loves Q&A. So I'm like, this is gold. So I had to sit through all these presentations that I'm so uninterested in. It was so funny. And then I'm like, all right, man, let's go. So he comes out and I'm like pumped. I'm like, bet. And he starts talking, da 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 da. And then he's like, he's like, and of course we'll do QA. He's like 5 minutes into it. And I'm like, cool. So I put my foot out, like right by the microphone. I'm just like, I'm straight. Get the wind a little bit more. He's like, all right. He's like, if you haven't lined up for Q&A, like go ahead and start lining up. And then he's like, I see a lot of people lined up already. I'm like, and then I look behind me, man, there's like a line of people and they're all like crouching down, like kind of didn't want to disturb. And I'm like, dude. And I said, I looked to the dude right there. He's kneeling right in front of the microphone. I'm like, dude, my foot's here. He's like, all right, whatever, dude. And he's just like, okay.
No way.
So I was like, because I would have fought for that anyway. But I mean, so you ask what I did. That's strategy, right? In a way. But what I really wanted to do was make sure he remembered me somehow, some way. So I knew there was a backstage meet and greet at the same time. The first thing I did was tell him, I said who I was, where I worked, and what I used to do. I'm a retired Marine, blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, thank you. And I said, I have my squadron patch for you. I wanted to give it to you. Can I come up and bring it to you? He's like, yeah, man. And he loved it. And I was like, no one's giving him a squadron patch. Not like this one, at least. So I asked my question. It was amazing. Then Q&A is done. And then he goes to some back room to do a meet and greet. And I mean, as soon as I was done asking the question, I basically left that lounge so I could go see where this thing was going to be. Got to see him after that. At 2 more patches. I gave one to D-Rock. I'm like, dude, thank you for all you do. And then I gave Gary another one. I'm like, hey, man, this is for Claude. She's been mentoring me. And I was like, can you please give it to her? He's like, I got you, brother. And I'm like, all right. So that was number one. That was the first time I met him. So then a year later, when I had quit my job and was living with my in-laws, I told him that at this conference called Vid Summit. And we had this like 10-minute exchange. I did the same Q&A thing. I got to talk to the security dudes. I'm like, hey, man, when Q&A rolls up, like, you got to get me a mic. Like, what do you need me to do? And they're like, I got you. All right. So we had this exchange. I'm like, dude, I met you a year ago. Everything you said changed my life. He's like, we just went back and forth in public. It was amazing. And I said, I made $1,000 donation to your charity because you always keep your charity stuff on the low. So I was like, I made $1,000 donation. I have a screenshot in my pocket. I made it to your charity of choice. If I could get 10 minutes with you in New York. He's like, let's do it. And I'm like, all right. So I didn't have to probably spend that $1,000, but I didn't give a shit. I was like, I got to try something. So that landed me the first meeting. And then I was talking to his team after that first meeting, which was incredible. What I started doing was, how can I give back? Like, literally, how can I give back? So I started interviewing the people around him. His COO, the president of Vayner Speakers, all these people, I'm like making content for them, just interviewing them, having them on my show as a thank you. Mm-hmm. So then when a year came around and I wanted to get him on for Veterans Day last year, it was supposed to happen, but then, it didn't work out. They rescheduled me for December. And that was like, I brought 2-3 cameras, of course, and whatever. And I just was able to thank him. I always start off when I'm around him, like, say, thank you. Like, you've done so much for me. And the reason I think you and I are someone like that resonates with us is because, dude, and I could tell you right now and anyone listening, everything you see is exactly real. Never, ever in any instance, any second that I was in front of him were his eyes not completely fixated on me, listening to me. Like his like EQ is on another planet. He was never on his phone. He never rushed anything. He was like there to help. Like he's there to help. Like that's his whole like purpose. And it's real. And the last time I saw him, I had to mention this time as well. I obviously could have got it more in depth, but it was incredible experiences. But I went to New York. This guy invited me on his podcast. I show up with my camera guy in New York in like, now it was January. This dude completely forgot I was going to be on his podcast. He apologized to me, the shittiest, craziest apology. He had no idea who I was. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I bounce. I call Claude. I'm like, you busy today? She's like, you could save me. I'm kind of like in all these meetings. I'm like, cool, I'll come visit and I'll say hi. Go visit her. Then I'm like, I need to go get some coffee. So I get in the elevator and who the hell walks in? Gary. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Doing work here for Claude? I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just hanging out and blah, blah, blah. And then we get down. I was like, dude, like, my business has doubled since the last time I saw you. He's like, stay focused, brother, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then we just did the whole, you know, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So anyway, man, here's the moral. I put myself in situations for opportunities to arise. I don't want to say I created opportunities, but dude, like I just tried to be in certain places where I could effectuate the outcome, and it worked. And I got to meet my mentor, my like number one absolute total beyond mentor, multiple times.
Dude, that is an amazing story. The fact that you like, there's footage of you sitting next to him in that like room is like that's legend. Like, yeah, you could get him on a Zoom, but like everyone's seen that little room on YouTube, you know? So that's crazy, man. Congrats for doing that.
It's incredible. He's an incredible dude, man. And I owe like all my success essentially to him. He snapped me out of it, man. Him and Claude.
Rich, I know we're coming to close to the end here. I guess for anyone listening out there who has been inspired by this conversation to, you know, just take an SDR role or just start to create content, really just create and just record something or post something.
Yeah.
Just really chase after their goals and the lifestyle that they want. What advice do you have for them?
Look, sales is hard. There is a very, very special breed of crazy people that get into sales, right? And there's some who love the thrill of the chase, and they thrive and they win, and they are willing to do all the things that 99% of other salespeople won't do. Then there's salespeople who are happy and to just try and do as little as possible. And then there's like, you know, just the majority, which is like that middle, however much percent. What I would say to you guys is, especially what you asked earlier about, you know, you don't know what content to make. You absolutely do, because there's a ton of SDRs and sales reps out there who need help, right? They need to know how to actually start a conversation and make it last longer than 5 seconds. They need to know how to like make sure that some action is taken by the end of this phone call. They need to know how to comb through Salesforce a little bit better. They need to know how to prospect on LinkedIn without coming across like a sleazy, shitty salesman like we all hate, and DMing after you make a connection. Everyone needs to know something. And again, like if you just like say to yourself, like, there's one person out there that I could help, that will change everything. And just, you cannot be self-conscious about giving advice, because you might tell yourself the story like, you know, well, there's a lot more qualified people to be giving this advice than me. Like, dude, stop. You know, like, you can make content, you can add value. And look, here's the real one. If your company isn't even on LinkedIn, doesn't care about LinkedIn, doesn't understand LinkedIn, then this is a golden opportunity. If you are a hesitant salesperson, to be like, I'm new to sales, I'm looking to make connections and to learn how to sell. Connect with me, and I'll ask some questions from time to time. Dude, that would kill. In my opinion, that would kill. People be like, dude, you'd probably just get hammered with advice, hammered with connections, and you would be doing exactly what the man Gary Vee says, which is documenting the journey. And then you'd be like, made my first million this year, and it all started because I've made content on LinkedIn a few months ago and I got my head out of my ass. You know, so dude, that's what I would say. Just document and help people. Just help.
And just do it. Awesome. Rich, thank you so much, man. For anyone listening out there who would like to just pick your brain further, or just, you know, check out some of your content. I know you said you're on LinkedIn. Where else can they find you?
Yeah, Rich Cardona _ on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, who cares about Facebook, man? So the best place to get me though is LinkedIn, and definitely mention that you heard me on this show, or that you're connected with Mateo, because that'll probably increase the likelihood that I get to you sooner than later. So, dude, but thank you very much for having me on, and anyone who has questions out there, happy to help if I can.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it, man. Like I said, thanks for your time. I just gave you a sub on YouTube, so I'm 501. So I'll hold that
nice.
dear to my heart. But dude, thank you so much, man. Like I said, you're a really big inspiration for me, and the fact that you you just showed that it's possible to not only like meet Gary Vee, but like create content and start your own business and such. So we thank you for your time, man.
I thank you, man. I appreciate it.
SalesDevSquad, hope you guys found this helpful, and we will catch you all on the next one.